Welcome to the At the Eyepiece Show. This is an astronomy-based podcast that is devoted to discussing astronomical equipment, stargazing tips, observing reports, and equipment reviews. We don't focus on the science of astronomy. There are plenty of shows that do that. The focus of At the Eyepiece is the visual observers, those backyard stargazers that enjoy taking their telescopes under the stars, and those individuals wishing to join our ranks. After all, what matters to stargazers is what's at the eyepiece. Well, hello, my fellow backyard stargazers, and welcome to this episode of At the Eyepiece. We're recording this Sunday night, June 24th. So I hope if you participated in International Sunday, you had much better weather conditions conducive to that than I did, because I was completely clouded out. However, if you roll on over to Facebook and you check out either the solar activity page or directly to the International Sunday page, you will find plenty of photos from folks all over the world that participated in today's International Sunday, both all over the world, really. And most places had some nice weather, it looks like, from some of the images. And it's just great to see people up to the instruments checking out our closest star, the sun, through a variety of wavelengths and safely doing it and getting some great information from all the wonderful amateur astronomers that participated in that event. So hats off to you if you were able to do that. So let's go ahead and jump right on in on this episode, and let's talk about some new astronomical gear.
I feel the need for
Meade. Ow! That's right. Maybe you got the need for speed to head on over to Meade, because Meade has got some new equipment. You know, it was last episode that I was talking about. They released their LX85 series. This was a German equatorial mount, and about I think the 30-pound capacity. So nothing groundbreaking there, but it's great to see Meade releasing an instrument and mount combination at that particular price point and with those instruments there. But this one's really got me excited. Actually, there's two coming up here. This is the LX65 series of alt-azimuth go-to mounts. Now, the really cool thing about this mount is that you can mount not only one instrument on there, you can get it as a package, of course, from Meade. It's going to have their great 5-inch Maksutov Cassegrain all the way up to the 8-inch ACF optic available to you as a package deal. But you could probably get the mount separate and mount your own optics on there if you want, because they have a standard dovetail. What's unique, though, is that in the altitude axis there, the dovetail for the main instrument, which resides over the center of gravity for the mount itself, which is going to get good balance, you can put another telescope on the other side of that mount because they've included there another dovetail. Now, the thing is that this instrument on the other side will be limited to about 7 pounds. So perfect for a small refractor. I can see a lot of people really utilizing this not only for nighttime observing, but go ahead and do some daytime too, because hey, you can put a white light filter on your Mac or on your Schmidt there, and put one of their Solar Max scopes in on the other side, or something with like a Quark, or maybe you want to do it vice versa. I mean, it's really quite frankly up to you. So it's great that they are releasing that. Now, of course, this is a computerized go-to mount. It's got the AudioStar hand controller. It's got 30,000 object database. It looks to be very compact. Of course, now you can separate the optical tube from the mount and then the mount from the tripod. So transporting it looks to be pretty easy because you can break it up into 3 different components. It's got the AudioStar inside, which tells you a variety of objects and the descriptions, which used that feature quite a bit when I was enjoying my light switch series. and it was a lot of fun. Really, really enjoyed it. A lot of people did too when we were doing outreach with that particular instrument. And yeah, just a lot of great things it looks like with this particular mount. So it's not out yet, but keep on checking, and right here at the eyepiece, if it's released with some vendors or Meade itself, you're going to hear it first right here at the eyepiece. Now remember, I said that they weren't doing just this one. Yeah, they were doing something else. This is the Deep Sky Imager 4 from Meade, the DSI IV. Now, this is a 16 megapixel Panasonic CMOS sensor. It is cooled, two-stage cooling, by the way. Pretty good pixel size, both for deep sky as well as planetary, because it's 3.8 pixel size. And it's obviously going to be able to be used then for deep sky as well as planetary imaging. High resolution, it's fast, USB 3. And they have some new innovations with a sky capture camera control software. This particular software, you can run it on Windows, Mac OS. Nice to see that being included there. Thank you, Meade. And Linux. Yes, I use Mac primarily now. Well, actually, I have been for a long while. It was my primary computer for my observatory. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, so image acquisition and sequences, stacking, etc., sky capture. I'm really going to be interested in what the software can do, because the Meade DSI II camera that actually I still have was actually a great camera for electronically assisted observing. The software that camera came with, the Envisage software, really doesn't get the kudos that it deserved then or now, really, because I tell you, I could go ahead, and that's what I used when I participated in some of those virtual star parties there on the Google Hangouts in those days. I was using a Meade DSI II with that Envisage software and grabbing that screen for the images. It was great to be able to stack live and make the tweaks right there with the program. I even remember doing a memorable night where I just had tried it off the wall to see if it would work, grabbing an image of Jupiter. And believe it or not, I could draw the square around Jupiter, and the Envisage program would start to stack the images, and it would be much cleaner and much clearer to see some of the details. It wasn't that great as far as noise, etc., but it was a great camera overall, I think, for the time. So I'm really excited to see what the DSI IV can do out there. So as soon as I get news out there from folks that are testing out that or that camera, or of course it gets released out there, you'll know. It looks like they're going to have both a monochrome and a color, by the way, for that camera. Now, last episode we also talked about Daystar. Daystar had released a mount, 0 star, and now they have released another Quark eyepiece. They got quite a family of Quarks now. They got the combo Quark. They got the original Quark. I'll give you a brief description. They got the original one is either a chromosphere or prominence version. The combo Quark is for Schmitz or Max or long focal length refractors. Your camera Quark directly to a camera lens, of course. Your calcium H Quark, your sodium D-line Quark, and of course a Quark, course of Quark for your Questar folks out there. And now they have added the Magnesium I B2 line Quark. Now this looks interesting. This is a green wavelength. It looks to be at 5,172.8 angstrom in wavelength. Very high energy, magnetized region. It's really, it's green, so it's going to be easy for people to see this wavelength. In fact, they make a note of that in the pages here. describing why magnesium. And I won't go over it completely here for you. You can roll on over to the daystarfilters.com website and check more information out, but it really looks quite interesting. It's going to be easy for observers to see, and the exposures will be very short. This is direct from them as well. You're going to be able to reveal plage, large-scale magnetic structures, and dark absorptive molting of the chromospheric structures. That just sounds cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing some more images for that. So that is the new Quark from Daystar Instruments. Switching gears a bit to a book, Interstellarum Deep Sky Atlas Desk Edition. If you roll on over to visualastronomer.com and look for my books, not mine, but I'm just reading from the site, you'll find out a little bit more information. Actually, this just links to the Amazon site, so I guess you'll be able to purchase this directly from Amazon now, it looks like, so that's pretty good. One of the things I like about this publication is it gives you ratings based on the objects, and it has a wide variety of objects from star clusters to stars to nebula to galaxies. But it gives you a rating for these objects based upon the class of instrument you're going to use. So they include objects, for example, that are best seen in apertures 4 to 8. Other objects that are best seen in apertures 12-inch and probably up. So that's good. The other thing that I really liked about this publication is that it was all black on white, meaning that the images were on white paper, but the objects, of course, were black. But they also had sketches in there, and those two were also inverted. So very easy on the eyes. It's spiral bound. It's on dew-resistant paper, and it has a limiting magnitude down to 9.5, plotting of over 200,000 stars. So it really looks like an interesting publication for you to consider. And the sketches, like I said, there's no better representation of what you can expect to see at the eyepiece than somebody else's sketch that they took. Maybe it was even with similar size aperture as you're using. So that's very good. Interstellarum Deep Sky Atlas Desk Edition. Right now, it looks like that's about $65 on Amazon. So you might want to go ahead and check that out. I will be doing a mini review probably sometime in July of a publication of a reference book that I also purchased. I haven't had enough clear skies to be able to really utilize it, but I will be doing a mini review of that publication. And, maybe down the road I'll be doing one here for this publication. So keep on checking back for the episodes. And that should be a wrap, I think, of all of our industry news as it pertains to astronomical equipment.
This is an At the Eyepiece Observer's Alert.
Well, listen, if you're a planetary observer, you're going to be in bliss here for the month of July. Well, of course, if the weather holds up for you. Planets all over the place for you to enjoy. And of course, we're going to, last month we did a Just Jupiter segment. We focused on Great Red Spot and shadow, in particular shadow transits. In fact, check out the YouTube channel At the Eyepiece. Please subscribe if you have not done so already. I am going to be leveraging that YouTube channel more and more. I'm going to be putting more and more content there. A couple nights ago, I was able to do a live broadcast of the moon with also some Jupiter thrown in there, and we had great views for a little while. The seeing kind of deteriorated, but we had great views of Io shadow transit as well as the Great Red Spot. And of course, we did the moon. Seeing deteriorated, however. And then right at the tail end, we were just able to catch Io as basically just a little pimple, if you will, right off the edge of the planet Jupiter before I had some camera problems. So we had to kind of cut the evening a little bit shorter than I wanted to. But you know what? Check that out. Oh, I'll also, ahead of time here, apologize for the audio issues I had ahead of time here at the beginning of that broadcast. It was, I think, very, very low because I didn't realize it was using the speaker from the monitor versus the speaker that I was using attached directly to the shirt. So I do apologize for that. But I'd love to see your comments on there. And of course, go ahead and subscribe to that, please, so that you're up to date with any, of course, live broadcasts that we do there. But you're able to see those recordings. And of course, Spreaker.com puts these podcasts directly on the YouTube channel as well for you to enjoy. So now, let's get back to the observings alert before I digressed a little bit there. So if you're into planets, this is going to be a wonderful month coming up here in July. We've got Venus still visible in the western horizon. You've got Jupiter still well positioned. You have Saturn at opposition here in just a few days. June 27th, Saturn is going to be at opposition. Now, I want to call two things out in particular for Saturn. Actually, let me back up for a moment here on Jupiter. I would love to know if you all are getting some good information from my Just Jupiter segments where I talk about great red spot transits as well as shadow transits. I plan on doing that for the July 1st episode or thereabouts. So just kind of keep that in mind. Please let me know. Send an email to atthieyepiece@gmail.com. I'd love to hear the feedback. Thanks for everyone, by the way, too, that has provided feedback on being very glad that the show is back. I really appreciate that. Okay, so now back to Saturn here. A couple of things I wanted to point out for Saturn as far as observing alerts. Now, this is an older article that I recall back from April here. I first read this back on Universe Today. It was an article by David Dickinson, and he was talking about a small storm that was visible in the north polar region there of Saturn. Not quite at the polar vortex, but a little bit below that. And it's always interesting to track storms on planets, of course. And so just keep that in mind as you are observing Saturn. Go ahead and just keep following up. Now, the storm appeared early and then it kind of faded. So my point is, you never really know what can happen. This storm may reappear. You just don't know. So keep checking back on Saturn, of course, periodically, and look for any of the white storm regions reappearing near the North Polar Cap, okay? Just going to go ahead and throw that out there. Now, this is something that I just learned in the show prep here, talking still about Saturn. This is a very interesting phenomenon. As I said, on Wednesday, June 27th, Saturn is at opposition. Now, there is an interesting visual effect that happens regarding the rings that on this evening, the 27th, you want to pay particular attention to. It's called the sea liger effect. And basically, it has to deal with the brightening of the particles, the ice particles in Saturn's rings because of the angle between the sun, Saturn's rings, and us. So normally when we are observing it, the sun's at a slightly different angle, right? Thus hitting those ice particles at a different angle, and thus a sizable percentage of those ice particles are probably going to be in shadow, okay? But when you reach opposition, the ice particles are illuminated from almost the exact same direction from the sun as we are. So you may very well indeed see the sea liger effect, which is a brightening of the rings within a few hours of opposition. Now, from inthesky.org, org here on my page, my opposition time frame is 8:15 Central Daylight Time on the morning of the 27th. So obviously I'm not going to be able to check out Saturn at that time, but maybe some West Coasters, this is 1:15 Universal Time, maybe some other folks will be able to observe Saturn and see this effect because it's only going to be visible within the first few hours of that actual time frame of opposition. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you happen to observe this, I would love to share that observation online. So please send a quick little email to at the eyepiece at gmail.com, and I'll be sure to respond, or put the comments there on the YouTube channel for this particular podcast. Now, not only is Mars going, or Saturn rather, this month is going to be opposition, but this is going to be a fantastic opposition for Mars this year. Now, Mars reaches opposition late July. In fact, let me see if I can get the exact time frame real quick here. July 27th. So, of course, this is going to be a prime time to observe. Now, in particular, this opposition is good because Mars is also pretty darn close to us. The last time we had a really good, in fact, I think it's listed as the best opposition in 60,000 years, was back in 2003. This opposition is only slightly worse than that, meaning we're a little bit further away from Mars. So it's not going to be as big, but pretty darn close. So gear up for Mars, folks. If you're looking for a scope, in particular a planetary instrument, maybe like a refractor or something, if you're looking for a scope, listen, now's the time to order it and get it. Camera, same deal. If you're looking for a planetary camera, now's the time to order it and get it in here, because this is going to be a great period, in particular for Mars. Now, I mentioned it's going to be at opposition. It's going to be the best opposition since 2003. Here's one catch. Here's one catch. There's a storm going on Mars. That's really nothing new, right? It comes around every season, it sounds like. But right now, there seems to be a pretty good dust storm going on. And I'm only saying this cautionary comment here that observe it while the observing is good. Because I will tell you, I've been observing Mars. I think the worst storm was 2001, when pretty much you could make out any surface detail. The dust storm had completely covered the globe on Mars back in 2001. I don't recall that in 2003. I recall actually seeing a lot of great detail on Mars on 2003. But right now, there's a dust storm going on Mars. So you want to go ahead and keep your fingers crossed. Obviously, make sure that that storm isn't going to grow to wipe out all the detail. Maybe it's just going to stay regional. I'm not sure. But keep that in mind. This article, by the way, that I'm referencing, a big dust storm blows up on Mars, was from Bob King, June 12th, on Sky and Telescope. So you can read more on it over there. So, yeah, keep your fingers crossed, pray, do whatever it is that you want to do, as far as making sure that that dust storm does not obscure the views for the entire opposition. I'm looking forward to doing some outreach just about that time, not quite, but June 21st, locally here in Middle Tennessee, down near the Old Stones Fort. If you're in the Manchester area, go to their website and check out some information, because on Saturday evening at 9 p.m., I'll have a telescope down there, of course, weather permitting, and we'll be showing views of all these planets that I've talked about. Well, depending upon, I haven't done a site survey, so I don't know if my western horizon is good enough to get Jupiter. I'm sorry, western horizon is good enough to get Venus, at 9 p.m. till 10, and I don't know if Mars, frankly, will be high enough for us to observe Mars. Again, it's also dependent upon, the trees and other obstructions around at the site. But we are certainly going to have views of Saturn. We are certainly going to have views of the moon. We're certainly going to have views of Jupiter and some other deep sky objects as time and, of course, the weather permits. So be sure to check that out as well. Let's briefly end here on the sun for our observing. Now, currently, white light, you have one active region visible on the sun. This is 2715. This is probably 3/4 of the way through its transition on our facing side of the sun. So you want to get out and observe that in the next day or two. Image, etc., if you want. Other than that, there are no listed active regions or active regions with, possibilities. However, I do see on the solarham.net site, I do see on the very eastern limb of the sun here, a plage region that is coming into view. I don't know if that could be the remnants of a active region that has done a full rotation, or maybe it's something that's going to be coming up. I'm not sure, but continue to check your observing site. And that's a great site for white light, solarham.net. Well, that's going to be a wrap for this episode of At the Eyepiece. I will be doing my video editing tomorrow, maybe into Tuesday. And if you want to see the observatory that I observe from, it's rather unique, I think, from what I did, because it's strictly for electronically assisted observing. You want to go ahead and definitely check out the At the Eyepiece and subscribe to that channel on YouTube, because I'll have that up, I'm sure no later than Tuesday night. I don't think I'll have any problems with the video stuff. And you can go ahead and see that. As promised, I said that was going to be either, this next episode or close thereabouts. You can also check out the pre-recorded. Like I said, we were live the other day. And as soon as we have clear weather, I will be doing that more often. You can also check out At the Eyepiece on nightskiesnetwork.com. Whenever weather is permissible there, I try to pop on and do a little bit of broadcasting on that site as well. So here's wishing all of you plenty of clear skies, so that we can all talk about it next time right here at the Eyepiece.
Thank you for listening to this episode of At the Eyepiece. If you would like to participate in a future show as a featured guest, or perhaps you have suggestions for future show topics, send me an email at theeyepiece@gmail.com. Check out our blog at theeyepiece.blogspot.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. Just put in a search for At the Eyepiece. I'd like to thank George Wood for his bumper and exit music. This is 8-Bit Junkie, and we obtained that from podsafeaudio.com. So here's wishing all of you plenty of clear skies, so that we can all talk about it next time at the Eyepiece.